we are going to focus today is on digital tools for effective collaboration. A little bit about myself. As I said that I am extremely passionate about social media, so I'm definitely very much there on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, wherein I find Twitter and Instagram more amenable to learning, though in recent months I have seen that Facebook has caught up as well. Initially, Facebook used to be a bit of a time waster, but we now have a lot of educators groups coming up. If I could just request the participants to keep their mic on mute so that the other participants are not, distracted. Thank you so much. Right. So, but Facebook is also very fast catching up. All you have to do is, just run a search. You look for teachers groups, you look for Google groups or Microsoft groups, and you will be able to find so many educators groups. And these have educators from across the country. But more on that later. And as I said, in fact, as Varun said in my introduction, that I'm also a certified, Google certified trainer for education. And that's enough about me. Let's launch into today's session. But before we do that, in the chat box, it would be lovely if all of you could tell me which part of the country you are from. So just in the chat box, go into the chat box and just mention the state or the city you're from, so that we can get a feel of where all we're able to touch base from. Okay, great. You might want to rename yourself QGISKJ 2020 because otherwise we wouldn't know what to call you. So you're from Delhi. Great. I'm a Delhiite as well. Rupa from Kerala. Wonderful. I visited that place and it truly is God's own country. Karnataka from Belagavi. Again, I have family in Karnataka. From Abu Dhabi, that's wonderful. So we've got an international participation here. Telangana. Okay, lots from UAE. Okay, wonderful. So, I mean, this is interesting, isn't it? Because before the COVID shutdown, we were largely limited to our own cities. I know because I have two young children. It's not easy for me to leave the city and attend or conduct workshops outside of the city. But this is amazing. We've got people from Jammu and Kashmir, from Chhattisgarh, from MP. I'm familiar with Mao. Yes, I've been there as a child. My uncle was posted close there. He was in the forces, and he was posted close to that. So as a child, I visited Mao. I've not had the privilege of going there again. Gurugram, excellent. Great. Okay, wonderful. Right. So, okay, from Kerala, living in Abu Dhabi. Wonderful. Wonderful. So I was just talking about how difficult it was otherwise to go, beyond your city, attend workshop, learn things from, other educators or other professionals who could have a impact on your educating style. So COVID-19, of course, it's a tough situation for all of us, physically, emotionally, but it's also opened a lot of windows. And as we've seen the world over, one of the things that we've been able to do is reach out, across geographical boundaries, across the barriers of time also, often where across time zones also we are touching base with each other and, being able to learn from each other so much. So this is really, really exciting. So you've got a great set of participants here, Varun. So congratulations to you from Rajasthan as well. So it's wonderful. Great. So that brings me to the motto of the Three Musketeers, later on four, if we have any language teachers, English teachers here. And the motto was one for all and all for one. So these initially three and then four men would take over Cardinal Richelieu's larger set of guards and save France and the king and the queen from the evil designs of Cardinal Richelieu. So that's how educators are as well. So right now, our Cardinal Richelieu is COVID-19, and we educators are the musketeers here. We are holding fort, and we are reaching out and protecting our children, not only their learning, making sure that their learning doesn't come to a halt, but also reaching out to them to help them emotionally as well. These are tough times. There are so many children. Some of my own children their families have been affected by COVID. Some of them have lost family members as well. So it's a difficult time for all round. And the best thing to do in such a case is to close ranks and collaborate. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Also, some of you would have been reading through the NEP document. It's a huge document. And of course, I've been focusing on the school part, not so much on the higher education yet, because I'm still familiarizing myself with what NEP plans with K-12 education. And one of the things that really comes out is that there is a lot of push towards digitization of education, familiarizing children with digital tools to empower them to meet the needs of the future. Like in one of the sessions that I attended a while ago, there was this gentleman. He's 80 plus. He's MM Pant. I don't know. Some of you might be familiar with him. He's a grandfather of sorts to educators. And he says that, in 5 years' time, by the time your children are ready to leave school, about 40% of the jobs that are around today will cease to exist. But at the same time, there'll be 40% increase in jobs which don't exist today. So when you are educating your student in the classroom or through online medium, are you empowering your student to meet these needs, meet these challenges of the 21st century, where every day the world is changing, right? We've seen the world change in 6 months, right? So in 5 years, where are we headed? And are our children being empowered to face this new world, right? So I'm a firm believer of what I can do well, I can do better when I'm working with a group. Brainstorm with them. They can tell me that, okay, some of my ideas may not be actionable, or we may face certain problems. So can we, preempt certain issues and be prepared for them so that when those challenges do come up, we are ready to face them, right? Um, So as I said, collaboration is one of the key tools of 21st century skills. In fact, Varun is a living example of using 21st century skills, where you're talking about creativity, you're looking at, you're identifying problems, critically thinking about them, looking at creative ways of solving these problems as well. For example, educators were finding it difficult to upskill themselves. And if you're not upskilling, then you're not moving forward professionally as well. Teacher.in and Study Apt are examples, of how you can use the 21st century skills and really push forward and make a difference in the world. So today's theme, of course, as I said, is collaboration, but we will be incorporating other 21st century skills as well, because again, just the way you and I collaborate, so do these skills also collaborate with each other to come up with, some amazing solutions to challenges that we face on a daily basis. So who all can collaborate? Actually, anybody can collaborate. I have a lot of street dogs where I live, and these guys collaborate, right? So whenever they see a strange dog trying to make inroads into their territory, all of these dogs want to get together and bark him out of that street. So if animals are collaborating, so are humans. In fact, humans are social beings. We are hardwired to live in a community, to collaborate with each other in a community, whether it's a family, whether it's your resident welfare association, whether it's the city or even the country. We're always collaborating with each other. So why not in the field of education as well? Often I find that a lot of educators tend to work in isolation, not so much anymore, but when I had started working, which was my first job was in 1999, and even the workstations were so isolationist. I hated that staff room because when I started my workstation, I couldn't see my colleagues, I couldn't talk to them. So if I wanted to talk to them, I had to leave that space, and move my position to be able to face another colleague and connect with them. So I don't think that that particular place where I was working earlier encouraged collaboration. I'm glad I left. So who can collaborate? Of course, teachers. We don't work in isolation. We shouldn't work in isolation. In fact, now also with increasing demands of the curriculum, often, within departments, we are collaborating across departments. Say, for example, from 6 to 8, we have a team of teachers who are looking after middle school needs, not only academic needs, but also social emotional needs of the children. So there is a set of teachers who's collaborating. When we look at the entire school, all the staff members, all the support staff, they are together running the school, including the leadership, right? The leadership alone cannot run the school. You need your teachers, you need your office staff, you need your admin support, you need your lab support. So all of that together will make a school. But if there are no children, there is no school. So when the children also come in, that's when the true collaboration really begins. So today we're going to be looking at certain tools where you as educators will be collaborating with each other, where you'll be creating tools where you will encourage collaboration of students, and as the final stage, where once you're back in your classrooms, whether remotely or whether in person, you will be able to collaborate with your students directly, get them to create tools of collaboration. I mean, that is, the final point of learning, where the children are synthesizing and creating something new from what they've learned. So as I've already talked about all of this, the advantages of collaborative teaching. One, it improves teaching because, I'm getting new ideas from my colleagues. The very act that we are together in this Microsoft Teams meeting, and we will be exchanging a lot of ideas. I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. So you can test out your ideas with your colleagues. I tend to get some very crazy ideas sometimes, and I might ask my colleague, do you think we can do this in this class? And they might say great, but you'll have to rethink how we're going to do that, right? Because children might misbehave, or children might not feel motivated enough. So we need to find ways to truly engage them, and this kind of brainstorming is going to lead to improvement of that initial germ of an idea. It gives you more access to resources. When you're collaborating with your teachers, somebody might say, 3 years ago, I made this wonderful worksheet. Let's fish that out and see how we can, modify that further. And today, with the digital tools really becoming the way to go forward, you might actually even digitize those old worksheets and activity sheets that you may have created. And also we learn from each other, tried and tested strategies, we can learn from each other, and, really take them back into class, and truly make learning a great experience for students. Now, I'd just like to ask you one question here, and maybe one or two of you can unmute yourself or even write in the chat box if you're feeling shy. What is that one memory, one very happy memory from school that you carry forward? Any one very happy memory from your school days? So if you're feeling confident now, just unmute your mic and share with us. We'll try to keep this as interactive as possible. It's a small group, so I always love working with small groups because it's so personalized. Or you can type in your message. Yes, Satvinder ma'am, you can unmute your mic and
Ma'am, actually, I raised my hand long back. I just wanted to know the person of the grandfather. You said he's the grandfather of educators.
Yes, he's the grandfather of educators.
What's his?
M.M. Pant, I think, was a medical professional initially, but now, since retiring from actual, just Google him, he'll turn up, M.M. Pant, Dr. M.M. Pant. And since then, he's made it his mission to, really motivate, especially educators, to reinvent themselves, because the scene out there is changing, and often, school educators are the last ones, or school systems are the last ones to respond to this change. He wants to change that around.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome, ma'am. Okay, Leelavati ma'am says being selected as school leader. So you were part of the student council, so that's an amazing memory. But why is it so memorable, Leela ma'am? The fact that you were able to, do new things, that whole experience being with your school friends, leader of the class, appreciation word from teachers. Nobody so far is talking about studying the parts of a flower from their bio class, or maybe Nazism from their history class. Or there was a concept in maths I did, which I never liked, which was called SURDS, I think, SURDS. So are there any maths teachers around here? I'm not sure if it's still taught in school, SURDS. I don't even remember what it was, but I just remember the term. Yeah, and I think I hated that topic, really. So nobody's talking about a topic that they learned in school, right? I think what is coming out is experience, right? Being elected as school leader, being with your friends, words of appreciation from your teachers. Okay, QGISK is actually Khushbu. I should remember that. Right. So spelling rules, yes, that's an experience too. That in English, there are strange rules which govern spellings. Um, yes, see, Seema ma'am is also saying experiencing the germination of a seed with a bioteacher. So that the whole point is experience. So how are we going to look at collaboration, especially through digital tools, and create an enriching experience for our students? Because that's what we remember. I was in school 27 years ago, right? I passed out of school 27, yeah, 27, 28 years ago, I think. I'm forgetting. I'm an old woman now. But I only remember experiences. For example, I may not remember so much about the topic, but how much fun I had learning that topic, right? So coming back to that, we are able to create a learning experience for the students. Otherwise, you just go there, okay, open your textbook, read. You read one paragraph, you read the other paragraph, and we're done. Let's do 5 question answers, and okay, right? Teamwork in sports used to be of yeah, and sports, of course, was your favorite period. Again, it's about experience. When you would have played dodgeball in teams, so you have to defeat the opponent, or you were playing basketball, for example, or you were doing a javelin throw, or doing a high jump or a long jump. So these are all experiences that you are looking back at. I don't think you remember how far you jumped for a long jump, or how high you jumped, but just the fun of it, right? And of course, because you are able to work with your colleagues, you are freeing up your time as well, because you're not reinventing the wheel all the time. It frees up your time for creative thinking, which is again such an important skill for the 21st century. I mean, we are faced with so many problems. What are the creative ways in which we can solve these problems facing us? And what are advantages of collaborating learning for students? First and foremost is problem solving skills. As I said, we are faced with different kinds of challenges. What are the ways in which we can face these challenges? For example, there was this young boy I heard of who had developed, glasses for those who were, visually impaired. That is, they had very high number glasses. So they were kind of termed legally blind. If you had a page, and you would wear those glasses and hold the page in front of your face, the glasses would read what's written on the page, and then speak it out in your ear, because it would also be fixed with a little earpiece, right? So there was a problem that hearing impaired people did not always were not always able to read because of a lack of braille resources. But once these glasses become more developed, and are become do become commercially available, can you imagine how many of our visually impaired friends, they will be able to experience the written word, right? They'll be able to read stories which are otherwise not available to us, either in an audiobook form or in braille, right? So problem solving skills is one of the first and foremost advantages of collaborative learning. Second, obviously, is critical thinking, because the moment you start thinking about how to solve a problem, you are engaging in critical thinking. The third is that it supports diversity. This is an essential social skill, because today there are, geographical boundaries do not bind you to a certain kind of professional life. People are going all over the world, in search of better career prospects. And when we go to different parts of the world, the people that are different, the culture is different, right? We have different colors, we have different facial features, we have different quality of hair. So are our children uh, ready to accept that diversity? Are we still judging people on their appearance? Are we still judging people because they are named a certain way? So collaborative learning also helps develop these social skills of accepting, not tolerating. I hate that word actually. When we say tolerance, it's just about tolerating someone, but accepting and celebrating diversity. And which leads us to better communication and better relationships, right? When we say that today the world is a village, it's true. And that is because we are communicating with each other, at the speed of light. And we have built these relationships, individual relationships, social relationships, and even national relationships with other countries. So let's get to the actual hands-on section of today's session. We've got about 45 minutes to cover that, and then we'll have a 15-minute Q&A. But do feel free, if you feel I'm going too fast and you want me to repeat something, please ask me to, pause and repeat, right? We do that. Right, so today we are going to keep our focus on Google Jamboard. I'm not sure how many of you have experienced Google Jamboard. Google Docs, I think quite a few will be familiar, but we look at different ways in which we could use Google Docs. And of course, I'm a great supporter of social media for learning. So we will talk about some social media tools as well. Right, so let's start off. I would love you to take a screenshot of these hashtags. These are extremely popular educators hashtags across social media platforms. So whether it is Facebook, whether it is Twitter or Instagram, these are some of the most popular hashtags for educators. A lot of very accomplished educators, very experienced ones, very creative ones are sharing what they're doing with their students. They're sharing resources which we can all take back into our classrooms. Often they're kind of ready to be used in the classroom. You don't even have to, think too much. How can I modify this tool? So please go ahead, and I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to take a screenshot of this. It's a mix. There are some large hashtags. For example, EdTech is a very large hashtag. So is STEM. STEM covers the STEM subjects. There's also a math chat for math teachers. There is a Sci chat. There is an English chat. There's also an SS chat for social sciences. There's Arts Ed for performing arts and for fine arts. There's Global Ed, which is again one of the more amazing hashtags that you will find there. Of course, EdChat Ind is also a Twitter handle as well as a powerful hashtag as well. And Google EDU, of course, I'm a Google trainer, so I will always talk about Google. Google EDU is also a powerful hashtag where a lot of educators from around the world use, share with you tips and tricks and strategies as to how you can use various Google for Education apps with your students. So I hope you've all got the screenshot. Can I move the slide ahead? A couple of yeses in the chat box would be helpful. I generally don't get to see the hands up because I'm in my present mode. So Varun, do give me a heads up if.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of yeses.
Sangeeta ma'am, are you able to see my screen now? Okay. Okay, super. So just give me a heads up if somebody's raised their hand because I don't get to see the hand raising. Screen sharing not happening. The others are able to see. So I think Sangeeta ma'am might have a particular issue there. So Varun, any way we can help Sangeeta ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Can you try joining again? I think or you have not pinned ma'am's screen, ma'am. So maybe you can go to the attendance part and just click on the screen that is being shared. I think you're on the participant screen. So either that or you can rejoin the session.
Yeah. Okay. Let me switch on chat so I can keep an eye on the chat. Yeah. Super. Right. But just to kind of also guard you against falling into the social media rabbit hole, used to happen to me a lot. Till I learned how to discipline myself. I'm extremely active on 3 social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. In fact, I handle 3 Instagram accounts and it drives me actually up the wall. So set yourself a time limit, and I would recommend set yourself 10 minutes on each app, right? So whether it is Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, I think how many of you are on Twitter? Because Twitter, I think, is the most powerful of the 3 as far as educators communities are concerned. Just let me know in the chat box which social media app you are active on. Okay, Rupa ma'am, I would recommend that you create an ID on Twitter and start by following EdChat Ind, which will give you more suggestions to follow other educators, because Twitter is actually the most powerful of the 3. Facebook, please look for educators groups and you will find a whole lot of, there are hundreds of groups. Great. I don't see a lot of people on Instagram, but I'll tell you something. Instagram started as a photo sharing app, but it's, I think, emerging as the fastest growing social media app currently, and it has become extremely powerful for various professional groups as well, including teachers. So that might be worth exploring as well. Super. So some of the Facebook groups that you can search by are Microsoft educators groups, Google educators groups. These are two of the most active educators groups that you will see on Facebook. And thousands of people are there, and they're constantly sharing what they're doing with the different digital tools. So a lot of learning from there as well. So that's collaboration for you, right? So that's the first level of collaboration. And of course, engage with those, ask your questions. I often find when I get stuck with something, I'll put up a question on one of those Facebook groups, and I will have at least 20 people responding to me from across the world, suggesting what I can do to overcome certain challenges, right? Staying on social media, I would also like to introduce you Global Educators, Google Educators Group, Delhi and NCR. Even though it is Delhi and NCR, because Google requires us to attach, a city name to our groups, but your geographical location is absolutely no, disadvantage. You can join us from any part of the world, and this is. To connect passionate educators, just like Teacher and Study Apps do. They connect passionate educators to discuss the benefits of technology, which can really supercharge what we do in schools, in our classrooms, in communities across the world, both online, and sometimes we do organize offline activities as well. So the Delhi chapter, we are relaunching. It had become inactive over the last couple of years. So we are relaunching this on the 17th of October. So if you're interested, I should just pick up the form link. I'm sorry, my screen changed. I'm just putting up the form link here. And just click on that form, or just save that form somewhere, form link somewhere. And you can join in when we launch on the 17th of October. Right, we're looking forward. In fact, 3 more of my colleagues who are also certified Google trainers will be part of this launch, and we hope to bring in more value for whoever is joining us, and also, of course, learn from all of you as well. Right, so let's talk Google Docs. I think many of you are familiar. Are you able to hear me now? I'll just increase the volume. Is my voice better, Varun? Clearly audible?
Yes, ma'am. It is better.
Great. Right. So we'll start with Google Docs. How many of you are familiar with Google Docs? A couple of yeses in the chat box would help. Okay, great. Okay, so what have you used Google Docs for so far? So all of those who are saying that we are familiar with Google Docs, what all have you used it for so far? So we have Aparna, who's not familiar. Okay. But most of you are. That's great to know. So what all do you use Google Docs for? Okay, a lot of school documentation, a lot of department work. Have you used Google Docs for collaborating with students? Okay, super. Super. So Shibamol ma'am says that she has used it for collaboration, for activity reports. Okay, all kinds of documentation. Yes, it's a powerful tool. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to show you one example of how I used Google Docs with my students. So I'm going to take you to this link. Now, this was an article I came across. This was a blog by Devdutt Patnaik some years ago, where he had actually talked of Sita versus Draupadi, right? My class 12 students in history, they study the Mahabharata, and we look at some gender issues as well in that chapter, right? So I gave them a short reading material, plus I had linked the article in the thing below. And what I did was I had just made a table where I put in Sita and Draupadi's name. I talked about their birth, their upbringing, how they got married. Are there any similarities or differences in them? The images are taking a little longer to load. That's okay. How they got married. What kind of violence did they face? So different concepts I gave them. And I got children to work in pairs on each of these concepts, right? So what they were supposed to do is read that article, find these points of commonality or differences, and insert relevant images, right? They were supposed to search for these images. And interestingly, all of these images are all copyright free or free to use with attribution. So this is very important when you are using digital tools and when students are searching online for different material. You have to tell them that whatever material they're using, either they should be used with permission of the owner of those material, or they should look for material which is either copyright free or free to be used with attribution. Right? So they were also supposed to put the links from where they had accessed those paintings. So the fact that Sita and Draupadi were both feared, they were not victims. They were not simply victims. They were very complex characters. So that's what the students, after this activity brought out. So these were done by pairs of students. And this activity actually took about 15 minutes of class time. We have standard about 35 minutes of class time. In 15 minutes, this is what the children produced sitting in the classroom. This was, of course, a few years ago. So we were in the classroom, but this can be done as an online activity as well. For those of you who are familiar with Google Docs, you know that we can use this button to share this document, with multiple people and who can edit this document in real time, right? We will experience that. Some of you have said that you're not familiar. So you will get to, get familiar with this when I share the link. Attitude towards vengeance. Were they looking to take vengeance also? So we are looking at different aspects of these two women and what are the common features and differences. So enough about that. And what we will do is take you to a collaborative project. So I am going to share the link of this document in the chat box. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I really like the views about Sita and Draupadi that you have shown just now. It was really interesting. Many things I said I was not aware of it.
Yes.
This
Yes.
was too good.
Yeah. So that's the power of collaboration. That's the power of collaboration.
Yes. Thank you so much. That was too good.
Right. Alone, we wouldn't have known so much. So thank you so much.
Yes.
And I'm going to relay these compliments to the students. I'm still in touch with my old students, so they'll be super excited to know that there were other educators who were so excited to see.
Yes, and I'm thankful to
And
them
even
as well
give
as to you
and
to
give my
Varun.
compliments, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I feel
Thank
complimented.
you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Right. So I've just put a link to the document in the chat box. Please go and click, and I can see many of you are joining in. As you can see, there are 3 columns. Now, I had not designed this. This is by Caitlin Tucker, who's a Google certified innovator. So she's one step, above me. So this is the tool that she has created, right? And this is called how can you design an online lesson using the 5 E's instructional model. So the first 2 columns are the lesson elements. So we engage the students' attention, we explore or get them to explore the concept. Then we have the students explain back the concept to us after they've explored and then elaborate further. And finally is we conduct the evaluation or students plan their evaluation, right? And what would it look like? We've given you some hints. And then the blank column that you see, what tools can I use? This is where I'm looking for all of you to collaborate and come up with your ideas about what digital tools. You've been attending some of the sessions earlier also. Some of you I know have attended some of the earlier sessions, or you've attended other webinars where they've talked about digital tools. So let's share some of the digital tools that we can use to meet each of the lesson objectives. Okay, Nearpod, matching pairs. Super. Yes, Nearpod is a favorite as well. I love Nearpod too. Okay, the others can move into the other cells as well, where we can look at explore, explain. Some of the tools that you've already studied about in the previous sessions. So we'll give this activity 5 minutes. And those who are unfamiliar with Google Docs, just to kind of update you, that at any given point of time, up to 50 people, 50 people can simultaneously work on a document. So you always have the updated document ready with you. So there is no confusion. Okay, I've sent you an attachment that is version 1, and then version 3 and version 7. And then suddenly I've realized that the final version is the wrong one that I sent. It was not supposed to be that. But one of the struggles that I can see that you are having is that you're typing over each other. So you will, face this issue with your students as well. But there are ways of overcoming that. I'll share that with you in a bit. Menti.
Sorry
Excellent.
to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yes.
That doc is getting open in Google Drive, so I'm not able to type over there.
Are you working from a mobile phone, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you will need the Google Docs app on your handheld device.
Okay.
So you can just try to quickly download that. It will take you hardly 2 minutes to do it. It's a very
Sure,
light.
sure.
Yeah.
May I say something? It's not
Sure,
a just
sure.
question. I just want to tell actually, I am able to just add comment. I'm not able to type exactly in the document, but there is option of adding comment. So
Okay, you're only getting a
I don't
comment,
know.
right? Because I had shared this. Anyone can edit. That shouldn't be happening actually. Are you also working on a mobile device, ma'am?
No, I'm on a laptop. I'm on a laptop.
And you're only getting. Okay. Anyone on the internet can edit. Yeah, I've made you all editors. So I wonder. Just reload the page, ma'am. That might fix it. Because we've not crossed the 50 mark. So we're 29 of us on this.
Yes, it's okay, ma'am.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, sometimes just refreshing the screen helps. Yes, Kahoot is another great favorite. Okay, I think somebody wanted to write Sway. Quizlet, yes. Yes, and if you're conducting a class on a Zoom, the chat box again becomes a collaborative tool for you as well. Bunsy is amazing as well, especially for the younger ones. So as you can see, as I can see in all the cells, that there are some of these tools that you can actually use for multiple purposes. You can use it to brainstorm, you can use it to research, or do some, a discussion or crowdsourcing material, right? Nearpod and Edpuzzle can be used for asynchronous video lessons. In fact, I often find myself using Edpuzzle during my class. So I'll put a 5-minute video and get the students to watch those videos, answer the embedded questions, all the while we are still in our online class. Edpuzzle is super powerful. Again, I think a lot of these, as you're writing down these tools, and I'm realizing how much I love each of it. Flipgrid, I'm so amazed that some of you have mentioned Flipgrid. It is, I think, one of the most powerful video tools to allow students to create content. Google Forms, yes. I think some of you have covered Google Forms earlier, or maybe it's scheduled in one of the later sessions. Padlet, yes. Kahoot quiz, amazing. Hot potatoes, oh yes, I learned hot potatoes when I was conducting a week-long session in RI Ajmer. I learned hot potatoes there from one of the attendees, so that was wonderful. Yes. Poplet, yeah. My children loved Poplet when they were in junior school. My own children, they would come back and very excited. Mama, we made a Poplet today. So amazing. I think you see what's happening here. You're collaborating. You're picking up ideas from each other as to what you can do in your next class. So that's the power of collaboration. So you will continue to have access to this document. I'm not going to close access to this document. Please go on, and if there are tools here that you're not familiar with, just Google them. Or some of these are going to be covered in the next couple of days of the training. And yeah, you can start using them. In fact, Nearpod you can start using tomorrow. Menti, again, such an easy tool to do such amazing stuff. I love the word cloud, absolutely. Yes, a whole bunch of mind mapping tools are available out there, both paid and free. In fact, you can even use existing apps that you wish. You can create a mind map even using Google Drawings, which I feel is a very underrated app, but extremely powerful. You can use breakout rooms for small group discussions. Microsoft Forms, Google Forms. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. Great. So you see, you have a ready resource for you now. So next time you're creating, your online lesson, you can take back these ideas. You can use this document, make a copy of this and share with your colleagues as well. And then you can create your own online lessons, keeping in mind your own school's ethos, the curriculum that you follow, because I think you're all from different schools. So maybe you also follow different boards as well. So the learning objectives could be different. The curriculum is different. Super, great. Right. So shall we move on to the next one? Or let's look at some of the ideas that you'd shared, documents, activities, collaboration. How many of you teach board classes here? In the chat box, how many of you teach board classes, 10th and 12th? I know I teach, and it's a lot of hard work. Okay, so Dheeraj sir teaches a board class, Khushbu teaches, Shiba ma'am teaches. Okay, great. Great, yes. And I think one of the biggest challenges of teaching a board class is how to preempt what kind of question that you might face when you're sitting in the examination room and the question paper lands on your desk and you're like, okay, now am I ready for this question? So as teachers, it's our responsibility to make sure that our students, are prepared for any eventuality, right? So one of the things that I do, I used to do earlier is I used to give them a question bank. So every chapter we would have about 20, 25 questions. And I remember when I first started out teaching, each student would get those 20 questions. And as we progressed through the chapter, they were supposed to answer each of those questions. And we discussed them in class and they would submit their work to me. I would, review them and return to them after feedback. But this was very tedious for me. This was very tedious for students. And I remember about 3-4 years of doing that. I was just taking, the school leaving feedback from my 12th standard. And I asked them that, what is that one thing that you would want me to change? So one of these children who said that, ma'am, I'd just like to bring to your notice that the length of the assignment is inversely proportionate to the submissions that you will get. Okay. In simple words, if the assignment is long, not too many children are going to attempt it. And that struck a chord with me. And I said, it's so true. And it was so much work for me as well when the assignments were coming in. And Google Docs had about, not appeared on the scene then, but I used to use, the MS Word feature, and I would share that, one document with all of them. And then I asked them to choose those questions, choose from those questions or assign questions. The first 5, so-and-so does, next 10, so-and-so, if those are short answers and so on. But when Google Docs came onto the scene, it all changed for me. And I would have this one common document, just like the one you saw here. I would make 3 columns, or rather 2 columns, the student's name here, the question and space for answer here, share it with all my students. And wherever the students saw their name, they answered that question. So now I have up to 40, 45 questions in, per chapter in my question bank. And, my students have to do maximum 3 or 4 questions only. And once I review them, they can use all of this material for their board preparation. They don't have to buy expensive refresher courses, which often are not very well written. And they have material that they've created on their own. So they're proud of that. They've got feedback from their teachers. So that's, again, one another way of collaborating with your students. So the teacher and the students are collaborating, especially for a board class. Often we feel that no, you can't do anything creative in board classes. We're in such a rush to finish the syllabus. But these are some of the things, some of the elements of digital collaboration that you can bring in, which reduces the work not only for you as a teacher. So I only need to check that answer once, not 30 students and 30 of the same answers. It's very boring, as you can, as you can, of course, confirm, because we've all been through that. And students also have to do less work. But the point is, the moment they've shared, they know that their classmates are sharing too. So each one of them is contributing to put together a powerful set of resources. And this can be done across subjects. It's not just limited to history or maybe social sciences. You can do that across subjects. So those of you who are teaching board classes, that's an idea to take back home today. Okay, let's move on. Google Jamboard. Okay, now I love Jamboard. So I'm going to show you one example of a Jamboard. This is from, this is my colleague's Jamboard with her students. Jamboard had initially started as a hardware-based app. So we couldn't use Jamboard because Jamboards, one, they hadn't come to India. And even if you wanted to acquire one, it was super expensive and the school did not have the budget to buy one, right? And just having one device for the whole school never made sense. So we never went and bought one. So Jamboard became an easy to use, sort of whiteboard app, as it were. Just give it a few seconds to load. Just before, I think I discovered this in the G Suite of apps sometime in December, and I asked our school IT admin to enable it for the entire domain. And then there was no looking back. We shared it with our colleagues and they were so super excited. And even when, schools shut down, we were able to do collaborative activities using this Jamboard. The simplest one is making a collage, right? So this is about economic growth and development. So each, as you can see, each of the Jamboard has a topic and it has names of 3 or 4 students here at the bottom. And these 3 or 4 students, they each take the frame as their names occur. And they start explaining this topic, economic growth and development. And this is like pre-British times, right? Let's look at the next frame. So it has about, you can make 20 frames in a single Jamboard, a little similar to Google Slides, but not quite. So you can bring in images, you can even embed videos actually. Again, you can see that, the topic is given, the students' names are given, so they know that they have to come to a frame with their name, and then they add whatever material, right? So these are sticky notes that they've attached. Oh, great. So Syed sir has already used Jamboard, and I'm sure that he will agree with me that it is pretty powerful. And if you have a stylus device, it becomes even better, because when you activate the pen tool, you can write as well. So you can use this as your whiteboard as well, right? A little difficult to work with the mouse, but if you have a stylus, it becomes super easy. Yeah, somebody wants to...
Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, actually, there was a break in your voice. Can you repeat the sentence again, the last 2 sentences?
Ma'am, what was the last thing you heard from me?
You were just opening the Jamboard.
Okay.
And just say, let me load it. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to show you, the teacher had designed a blank Jamboard with 10 frames, as you can see, 2 of 10. There were 10 frames. Each frame has a topic. The overall topic is Indian economy on the eve of independence. So we've not yet become independent yet. What is the condition of the Indian economy? So each slide, the teacher has put the subtopic, and she has put the names of 3 or 4 students here, right? And then these students collaborate to give us more information about the topic at hand, right? So they're researching. So teacher has not taught this topic before. She's just introduced this larger topic in class and said, now you do your research, go Google, or if you've read something, you can open your textbook and see if you wish, and then create, a collage of content, right? So it's the same right across. So if there are economics teachers here, well, you have the image inserting capability here. So if I just click on the left-hand side where the image icon is, it allows you to insert images in these 4 ways. You can upload from your device. You can do an image search. You can bring in from your drive if you have, or you can go into Google Photos and pull them in. So yeah. so they can directly copy paste images into this Jamboard, right? So shall we do our own Jamboard? Let's make our own Jamboard. Now, I was told that there are 35 teachers. Sometimes Jamboard misbehaves and does not allow more than 20 participants to join in. So yes, this can be used for maths as well. So if you have a stylus device, ma'am, then that's amazing to do. But otherwise, the Jamboard itself does not have a way of inserting any maths equations. But if you do have a stylus device, then you can use the pen like you would use, the marker or a piece of chalk on your blackboard. Yeah, coming back. So if your name starts with A to M, you can click. Okay, I will need to give this. This is not a live link from. So if your name is from A to M, this is the link. Just putting it up. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Yeah, and if your name starts with, oops, N to Z. Oopsie daisy, I got that wrong. I'll need to do that again. Okay, my computer is freezing up a little bit. I think too many devices at home are logged in. C, and cursor is not coming into the chat box. Okay, there it is. N to Z. There it is. Okay, I hope it's accessible and you are able to type. If you aren't, let me know, because sometimes Jamboard on its own will mess up with the settings. Okay, I'm going to close a few windows so I can save some bandwidth as well. Okay, so what has happened is that somebody has cleared the frame with the first one. So the first set of questions has disappeared. So that will happen with your students. So I always allow my students to first play with it before we do any. So what I'm going to do is, I hope you wouldn't mind what has happened here. Okay, we'll just work with the next one. Okay, now for frame number 2, where it says that what G Suite tools, so it could be any tools, not necessarily G Suite. You can look at any digital tools that you've used and you've tried to maintain academic integrity. This is about, I think yesterday's session was on okay, this is not undoing. Yeah, Fasahat ma'am or sir, I'm not sure you are ma'am or sir, do let me know and we'll share a few ideas about that as well.
My name is Fasahat Iqbal,
Okay.
and
Hello.
I'm a teacher.
And I
Hi,
think you
ma'am.
primary students. Okay, we will share some ideas on that as well. Right, so do move on to the next frame as well. So yesterday you had a session on okay, if you don't know, if you're struggling how to use it, there is the fourth option. The first option is the pen option. You can activate a pen or a paintbrush. I prefer a pen, and the teacher's favorite pen is red in color. Yeah, I think some of you are experimenting, which is okay. There is also an eraser. So if you wish to remove something that you've already drawn, you can use the eraser function. The third one is a pointer function. The fourth one is a sticky note. So you can insert a sticky note, save it, and then when you click on cancel, you've got a sticky note which you can move around and place anywhere. Yeah, so I, of course, I'm going to delete this. You can also include shapes. You can also add text boxes. Yeah, Jamboard is pretty new, so some of you may not be familiar with it at all. So let's see what ideas are coming up. For assessment. Okay, for assessments, people are using Google Forms, quizzes, Quizlet, Padlet, and some other tools. So when we talk about academic honesty, right, especially since you've had a session on assessment yesterday, I think the biggest problem we've had is students being honest when they take a test. So what can you do as an educator to make sure that students are being honest? So waiting for ideas to come in. Both of these group 1. I have placed group 1 twice. My mistake. Is it the same? Yeah, they are. But anyway, all of us have fit in today. So today Jamboard is not misbehaving. So that's great. Okay, that's great. More thought-provoking questions. Yes. So not just fact-based questions, but somewhere where they have to, look at some data and form an opinion. Open book test, absolutely. You give them the material and now you tell them, now solve a problem. This is the knowledge you have. Now, how can you solve this problem? Exam.net also actually cannot prevent a child from cheating if they insist on. If they have a second device, how are you going to prevent that? Right? So, even if you might say that, okay, we've locked the tab and they can't open a fresh tab or they can't change that tab while they are on the test. If they have a second device, if they, how would you know if I have a book open on my lap? So even I'm on camera right now, you can see me, but I might have a book open on my lap. And if I'm just writing away like this, I could be looking in my book and writing. Life experience questions, okay. Hands-on activity. So the student has to produce something to show you rather than just regurgitating learned material. Time-bound questions. Oh, how much time will you give them? Even 10 seconds is enough for them to quickly run a Google search and get to the answer. Video assessment. So yes, you can ask them to actually answer a question verbally. It was very interesting. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the, ASL assessment of speaking and what is it? Speaking and something skills for languages. And my one of my daughters reported that, Mama, what my classmate was doing was he sat on his computer and he kept his mobile phone, next to the screen of the computer, right? And was trying to read from the passage, during the ASL test. And ma'am figured out because she could see his eyes elsewhere. So she said, are you cheating? Right? Are you reading from somewhere? So yes, you can actually have them, create a video to answer a question. Give them some investigatory project, excellent, where they may fail, but they might still be effectively using, their learning. The result may not always be, yes, assessment for speaking and listening. Thank you so much. I kind of forgot what L was. Speaking and listening. Yes, super duper. Okay. Yes, requiring students to also sign an academic integrity contract. But then again, let's be realistic there. And yes, remind them of academic integrity and also perhaps share with them the consequences, not in terms of school punishing you, but what consequences it can have on them in the long run. Like, for example, we've just, finished with one round of assessment in my school, and I know at least 5 of my students had cheated. I, of course, did not name them, but I generally in the group meeting, I did share with them that, see, how has it helped you? It's not harmed me in any way, right? I've not lost any salary because, you decided to cheat, nor am I going to get an enhanced salary if all of you get, 100 on 100. But who are you cheating at the end of the day? You're cheating yourself because you now don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you've missed, what you've not really understood, because you've just copied it off your book or some notes, right? You've not been able to identify your weak points. So how are you going to strengthen that? So when you tell them about these kind of consequences, that becomes more real to them rather than saying, oh, school will punish you if we find out. Because they couldn't care less, actually. One, how would you prove that they were cheating? They were not there, in the venue with you. So you really have no evidence, right? You can't support your accusation with any evidence. So I feel that the best way to approach this is tell them that what could be the long-term problems for them, not for anyone else. Their parents, no, not their teachers. The school doesn't lose anything. No one else in the world will lose anything but themselves. How to log into Jamboard? How can I share the link? Okay, super. So let me quickly walk you through how we can create a Jamboard. So if you're logged into a Google account, because Jamboard is a Google app, all you have to do is type in into the URL bar jamboard.google.com, and it will open up all the Jamboards in your drive. And you can use this plus sign at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, as you can see how many Jamboards I have already. And you click on that, and that, okay, my system is running a bit slow. Let me just close these up. Better. Right, so this is a blank jam which gets created. So all you have to do is bring your cursor over the untitled jam and name it according to your subject, your subtopic that you're discussing with them. Click on OK. And if you use Google Classroom, then it's very easy to share. Then you're familiar with how it's shared. Otherwise, what I did was I went into the share button and set up the sharing settings. Now, Jamboard is a little difficult to use with primary students if your school is not a G Suite school, because children under 13 are not allowed to have an email ID. So this is really class 8 onwards. And then you can just come here to the bottom part of the page. And right now, this is only restricted. So only if I add people's emails, like for example, if I could add Varun here, and Varun shows up as an editor by default, but I can, change his rights to just being a viewer. So he can only view my Jamboard, but not make any changes, right? And I can put in a message, and I can ask Varun that I'm looking for some, ideas for a particular session, and he can, then go on to putting in his ideas, right? So I'm going to just send that to him, so he becomes a co-editor with me. And if I want to share this with my students outside of Google Classroom, 13 years and above, then I go down to this part where it says restricted. I can change this to anyone with the link. Now, by default, this is only viewer. I went in and simply changed it to editor. And then all I have to do is copy this link and paste it on whatever platform that I'm using with my students, right? So if your students, if your school is not a Google domain school, then that might be a problem. I've not tried using this through Microsoft. I'm not sure whether Microsoft Teams is conducive to sharing Google tools. Not really sure on that. You could try it, but I have been sharing in the Meet, so you could use. So even if you're a Microsoft school, you can just go in and put that link in the chat box, and the students can join. I always believe that you should never limit yourself to 1 or 2 tools. Use as many. And I just click on done. Okay, great. So I'm going to shut this down. And then, oops, right. So we've got 20 minutes on the clock. Before we deal with the assignment, any more questions? I know one of you were asking as to how we can use these ideas for primary school. You can start a Google Doc. I mean, ma'am, if you could just give me an example of maybe what subject, then I could actually give you a working example. Fasahat, ma'am. You could just unmute yourself and kind of give me a scenario, which class, maybe what subject we can. Okay, there are some new messages. Let me go back and check.
Ma'am, your voice is actually not very loud. I don't know why. My voice is, I have opened the full volume. Can you please ask the question again?
I was just asking Fasahat ma'am, she had asked how we can use these collaborative tools for primary children. So I was just, asking her if she could, give me a grade maybe and a topic. Okay, grade 3rd and 4th is Sangeeta ma'am saying, and EVS. So maybe a topic if you could give me, English primary. Drag and drop, for example. So if you're using Jamboards, for instance, so let me just show you on jamboard.google.com. You'll be learning
Because, ma'am, it has been,
yeah.
my question was, ma'am, actually, because the primary kids need support from the parents.
Yes.
So is it okay for them to, they can use that? Do you think it is easy for them to use?
I am just giving you one example that I had made, for another session that I had taken. This is on time telling. I think this is done in grade 2 and 3 when you learn how to tell time on an analog clock, right? With the hands of the clock. Student's name can be put on the frame, and I can embed these. All images freely available on the net. So bring those in, and all that the child has to do now is use the pen tool. What setting is this? Okay. And I'm going to use the green pen because I like green. And I'm going to start writing the time. So this can be done. I don't have a stylus device, but I can even do that with my trackpad and finger. So something like this. So you've already created this for the students, right? And the students start to. So each frame, as you can see, it will have the name of, you can put in the name of a child. You do one example for them and just duplicate each of these frames. So how to duplicate? Very simple. There's a little downward pointing arrow here. And you have these 3 dots on any of these frames. So I can just go into these, and right now, because I have all 20 frames filled, I can always click on this duplicate and keep on adding the same kind. And students can just use their trackpad. But when we talk about pre-primary children, yes, then I would say let's not go into teaching concepts to them so much, but looking more at playway, right? So if you're studying birds, there are so many MP3 files freely downloadable, identifying bird calls, for example. That how does a crow call out? Or there are so many YouTube videos that you can search. And, there are so many bird call videos. I know one of my co-trainers, was conducting a session with primary school teachers, and she used this example. As an assessment, you can say, okay, just put that audio file in. Audio file can be inserted both in Microsoft PowerPoint as well as Google Slides, and ask the children to identify the bird based on their call. Or you can, if you're looking at more details of the bird, the skeletal structure of a bird, insert an image, put arrows, insert arrows into them. And leave a blank space, or even drag and drop can be created. For example, I can always make a drag and drop activity. For example, I can just, put another text box. Oops. Yeah, I can put in a text box here, and maybe I can type crow. Right, so I've typed crow. I will put this text anywhere, and let us assume that this is the crow. All that the child has to do is drag this and place it where the crow is. Right. For primary school students, your school will need to sign up for a Google domain. There are two levels. One is G Suite for Education, which is free for the school forever, which brings you all the apps. And there is one G Suite G Suite Enterprise for Education, which is a paid domain, wherein some of the apps, like for example, Google Meet becomes a little more powerful, a little more functionality. That's all. But my school has the free version, and we are definitely happy. We've been onboarded with Google for 6 years, so that's amazing. So create these. You have been looking at Google Slides. I think one of the earlier sessions was on Google Slides. The same drag and drop activity can be organized in a Google Slide as well, right? You can have a slide and have different words, and the kids can just pull it around and place it, wherever is relevant. So that's one. How could you use a document? Let's try something with a document. So you can make a table where all the children put in their names. They can talk about their favorite fruit. They can insert an image of their favorite fruit. Right? So simple things when we are talking about primary school children. Right? So I can, okay, the system is really slow, horrible. Happens sometimes. Okay, so I can insert a table. I can put in, okay, this is really taking, yeah, I can put in 3 columns and however many rows that I want. The table comes in here. I can say, okay, this is your name. And you can format the same way you format a Microsoft Word doc as well. So you've got bold, you can color your text. So you can, I can choose name of your favorite fruit and picture of your favorite fruit. Insert an image of your favorite fruit. And then again, we can go in and share, but remember, you can do this activity only if they have a Gmail ID, which is through the school domain. They cannot have a Gmail ID, or you can share this activity with the parents if the children are very young. And then the child can be encouraged to sit at home and work on it. So they can, how to insert an image, for example, let's say, okay, the spelling is wrong. I'm just going to check the spelling. This is the American spelling. So let's say my favorite fruit is the apple. So I write that and I search image. Let's search from the web. So it opens a search bar within the document. I don't have to go to another tab, and I can type in apple. And I can just insert this one. And you see that the table will resize on its own, right? So you can already put the name of the child. So this could be child 1. So if you're working with very young children, it's always best to give them their own space to work in so that they're not, messing up with other children and their work. So it could be kept very simple. For Hindi typing, you can do with the help of an extension, which is called Google Input Tools. I already have that installed. So if you open your Chrome, I'll just demonstrate that to you once. Right, and I can then choose which option I want, and my Hindi font comes in, and I can say save, or I can say and I can choose these. And so you can type in Hindi as well. So if you wish, I can show you the extension. In fact, you can type in any of the 22 scheduled Indian languages apart from the other 181 languages otherwise recognized by Google Docs. So would you like a quick demo of that? Yes, no? We have about 10 minutes. You can use the sharing link in the chat box in an online class, but they won't be able to join a document unless they are logged into an account. They need to be logged into a Google account, whether it's a school account or a personal account. So this is a bit of a problem with children under 13. So we were also facing this early on when we got very excited with Google, and when the moment G Suite for School was available, we were able to convince our school leadership to onboard with Google. Some new messages. Okay, great. I'll just quickly demonstrate. Very easy. This is a Google Chrome extension called Google Input Tools. So all I do is open a new tab, and usually this is built in. If not, you can always type in Web Store, Chrome Web Store. And I can search for Google input tools. Come up in a few seconds. Yeah, so it comes up like this. Now I've already added it to my Chrome extension, so it comes as added, but when you open it, you will see that there'll be a blue button on the right hand side which would say add to Chrome. Mine says remove, but yours would say add to Chrome. Once you've added to Chrome, it asks you for a few permissions. Very safe. This is Google's native tool, so don't worry about a third party getting access to your data. So no issues there. So you can just add it to your Chrome, and then it comes and sits in your this Chrome bar right next to your URL bar, right? And because Hindi is my most used font other than English, it kind of shows up like this. So let's go back to our document and try out another language. If I want more options, for example, I can go into extension options. This one, yeah. Then it gives me more language options. So as you can see how many languages there are. There is Bengali as well. That's my mother tongue. There was Hindi. Just give me any other language that you would like me to try out. There's Sanskrit also, by the way. So if there's any Sanskrit teacher in the group. Any language, please suggest any other language. Any of the teachers teaching any other language apart from English and Hindi? Okay, Arabic. I don't know how Arabic at all, so I'm going to choose this one. This is the keyboard. The arrow comes in the middle of these two columns. I then click on this arrow, which means now it gets added to my typing board, and I come back into my document. So you can see it's come here. I'm going to select Arabic. And I wouldn't know what to write because even the language is unfamiliar. So I might just write my name, for example. That's the safest way to go. Okay, now this is not acting. This is not behaving. Let me try out another way. Let's look at this one. Sometimes it's trial and error, perhaps because my MacBook doesn't, kind of cooperate with this. So coming in here again, changing to this one, and now trying to write my name. Okay, so I don't know if that is how my name reads correctly. I can increase the size of the font. So Shiva ma'am, please tell me if my name has been correctly typed in Arabic. Great. So, so you can use Google Docs to type in any of these listed languages, even Malayalam. Malayalam is also there. So all of the 22 scheduled languages in India are represented in the Google Input Tools. So please go ahead, play around with them and get your kids excited about this as well. Another quick tip that I want to share with you, I don't know how many of you are aware of this on Google Docs. MS Word has a dictation tool. In fact, this also has a dictation tool. I'm first going to change the language, otherwise it's going to pick up Arabic. And since I'm speaking English, we're going to go turn it off. So I'm back to English. And let me take my cursor to a free zone and go to tools, go into voice typing. By default, it is English US, but actually I can type in any language I want, right? I can type in English, of course. I can type in Hindi by voice typing. Actually, the Indian languages are towards the end. So let's say Hindi. Let me just speak in Hindi. नमस्ते, मेरा नाम संचिता है और आज का सेशन मुझे कंडक्ट करने में बहुत मजा आया. आज की ऑडियंस बहुत ही इंटरैक्टिव रही और मैं आप सब लोगों को काफी दिनों तक याद रखूंगी. So as you can see, I'm just going to switch this off. So as you can see that this picks up whatever I'm saying in whatever language. So if I knew Arabic, I would have dictated in Arabic. In English, sometimes it does make these minor errors, but the more you speak to your machine, it will understand your accent as well. Initially, it was very poor. It only recognized the American accent, but now it picks up what I'm speaking as well. So you can save a lot of time. I teach a lot of dyslexic students, so I often tell them to do their assignments by voice typing, because they get writers for exams also. It gives them good practice of speaking clearly as well, so that their writer, when they're actually sitting in a board exam, they can understand what the child is saying. So it helps both ways. So we've got 3 minutes left on the clock. Any more questions that we can take?
Yeah, is there any publishing like tools, like now we have a activity in the class for English, like newspaper editing. So is there any online digital tool that can help us with sharing this with the children on in an online class platform?
Yeah, you can use Document. You can use Google Doc to create a kind
Okay.
of a newsletter. I don't know if you're familiar with Adobe Spark. That offers quite a few templates of
Okay.
creating newsletters. In fact,
Yeah.
I used a couple of those templates for my newsletter as well.
Okay.
So you can even go into blogging. If your
Okay.
students are older and you want to reach out to a wider audience and get them feedback from, not just from you or from their parents, but from that wider society out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, lot of tools actually. Canva, you can use Canva as well for
Canva. Okay.
creating newsletters. So there's actually no end. I mean, you can just Google that what can I
Okay.
use for online publishing, and you see so many tools getting thrown up.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other question? Please unmute yourself. Don't take so long typing, but you can just unmute yourself. Yes, Leelavati ma'am, please go ahead. Good, I saw your hand. Oh, I had to give you homework, I forgot, in all my excitement. Right. So Varun would otherwise scold me at the end. Okay, ma'am, you were supposed to give some homework. Right. So basically, two small things. We've demonstrated the use of Google Docs. So design a Google Doc assignment for your students to work together on. Keep it to your subject, something that you can use in your classroom whenever next you're meeting your students. Right. So something real, let your homework not be something that, okay, it's done and, I'm not going to access it anymore. Make something which is of some value to your class. Varun is, of course, available. Please feel free to reach out to me whenever you want. I'm extremely active on all my social media handles. So just ping me anywhere and I'm going to get back to you. Varun, of course, is there to provide further support. And the second homework is using Google Jamboard. Look at a problem that you're facing and use that Jamboard with your students as a brainstorming tool, like we did for dishonest means, using dishonest means during examinations. So maybe that can be an activity for your older lot of students, that what could be the fallout of using dishonest means in school examinations, what it sets you up for in the future, or things like that. So anything, it could be subject based, it could be social emotional learning, it could be even life skills. So just go on, get these two homework. And Varun, if you could just tell the teachers how they are to share the homework with all of us to have a look, give feedback to.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, ma'am. I have a question over here for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As for pre-primary, we are going with the recorded videos and the worksheets on daily basis of all the subjects. So I have a question that I asked for yesterday's session as well the same, but Nearpod ma'am has suggested me,
Yes.
but there is a limited MB for it, and there is something need to work on for that, that I should take class for with 15 students. Later on I'll get it for 6 months. So I just want from you also the same suggestion. What can be the better option for right now, as we are going with the online classes, virtual classes? So sending videos is becoming very difficult, as it's
And
like
also a bit monotonous. Yes.
hanging our phone.
Yeah. I think reaching out to the pre-primary kids is really the biggest challenge at this time, because they're so young. They need their parents' supervision all the time, and with more and more parents back to work, it's becoming even more challenging. to keep the children engaged. So that is definitely a struggle. In fact, in our school also, I mean, we are constantly talking about how we can make it more meaningful. The videos aren't always working. Edpuzzle is something that you could use with them, pause the videos. I mean, you know how Edpuzzle works. Nearpod is Varun, if it's possible, I do have a code that I can share. I've forgotten the code. I'll have to, go in and get it. If I can, I'll share the code with you. This will, I think, give them, I think 3 months or something, 3 months, the gold license. So they will be able to add more lessons. So at least a few more months of support the teachers can get. So if that's possible, Varun, I'm going to share those codes with you and you can share them further with all the participants today.
Absolutely, ma'am. That would be fantastic. I just have one announcement to make. So, dear teachers, with regards to assignments, please fill the feedback form. There's a link that has been shared on the chat box. So the idea is that if you fill the feedback form, we'll be able to reach out to you because some of you have not shared your email addresses while you were registering. So I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form. The link would also be displayed on the screen right now. So yes, ma'am. Over to you again. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think someone had raised their hand. Oops, I raised my hand.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, regarding the preschoolers, ma'am, they want more of the visual learning. So is there a way, like how do we make a video, compile a video like germination of a seed or like anything about the plant or any subject like that topic? How do we, compile all that? Which tool to use?
Okay, one is YouTube is this amazing repository of videos, and especially now there are so many video creators, especially educational video creators, who've created these kind of animated videos of how a seed is germinating and so on. So you could use those, embed those into Edpuzzle, and after every maybe at a relevant break, get the kids to respond. But of course, they'll have to type. They don't even know their alphabets. Flipgrid is another way. You can embed the video in Flipgrid and the students can answer by video.
Okay.
Right. I know some of the teachers here are familiar with the Flipgrid. So students doesn't have to type anything. They only have to record their video and, click on submit. So they can just speak out,
Ma'am, I just want to add on, there is an app in which we can use the YouTube video and put our own voice. Like pre-primary children, they are not used to the voice of other teachers, other persons. So we can just, there is an app, I am forgetting its name, but you can put your...
Edpuzzle also lets you do that. Some of our teachers have.
Yeah. Okay.
Edpuzzle lets you do that. You can also do that. I'm so sorry for the distraction. You can also do that on Flipgrid as well. So you can mute the video and put your voice over. So the child then also connects with you, because at the end of the day, we will all be back in the classroom and the kid needs to know you, and feel happy that they are finally going to school to meet their teacher.
Yes.
So,
thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Is also important. You're welcome, ma'am. Okay, great. I think I've had an exciting time, talking to all of you, and and definitely I have a few ideas to take back, where how can we help teachers who are dealing with really young children, because my experience mostly is with high school or middle school. And yes, it is a big challenge because some of my colleagues are parents to children who've just gone admitted to nursery. They don't even know what a school looks like from the inside. So yeah, that's a great challenge, and definitely looking forward to connecting with you further beyond this meet as well. And maybe then we can have a brainstorming session as to how we can resolve this problem, because schools will be shut for quite some more time is the feeling that we get. And with the festive season coming, and I can tell you what pictures I'm seeing of people going crazy and going shopping and crowding in small areas, that kind of makes you a little scared as well. So yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, like you said, you are dealing with the grown-up children.
Yeah.
If you can do another session for the pre-primary kids, because as you said, we are really facing problem with them, how to engage them in online classes.
Okay, super. Varun, set up something.
So
and
my request is if you can do something about it.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I go with that.
We would
I
like
go
to.
with Satwinder. I really would go with that, ma'am. It would be of great help if the kindergarten level
Yes.
something is
Firstly
told about.
kindergarten and possibly level 1 as well, class 1 as well. Yeah.
Ma'am, how
Yes.
to make more interesting lesson plans, or to engage them, to
engage.
impart them, and then to assess them, because at their level,
But why
their
would we want
parents
to
are
assess these young
helping them.
children? They are
So
fast learners anyways.
yes,
Why
ma'am.
would we want to
So
assess the young
if you
children?
can do something
We can
about it.
do games with them. We can definitely look at ways to devise games with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely. So Varun, set up something for primary and pre-primary teachers, and we'll work on something on those lines. So we can have a
Absolutely.
concerted, focus on primary and pre-primary, because this was a more open session where I was looking at K-12.
Correct.
So yeah, so we can have a more laser focus on primary school.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the suggestion. That's and thank you for your feedback. That's very important feedback, definitely. Thank you so much, Rashmi ma'am, for your positive feedback. Thank you. Thank you so much, Seema ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanchita ma'am, for an amazing session.
Yeah.
We truly learned the power of collaboration, which is one of the most important skills that one needs to excel in this century. In fact, I was just discussing with a couple of higher ed professors, and they actually mentioned that collaboration is not taught to children in school days, and what that basically makes them is that they start believing in themselves more than group work, and they're not team players. So that is precisely the reason why in a lot of all our IMs and all the MBA other colleges, there's a lot of focus on group projects, and which is required, right? In fact, collaboration is the only reason why the greatest tools or products or ideas have come into the picture. So this is one of the most important skills, and it's amazing that you have brought to light such all these wonderful tools that teachers can use to imbibe these important skills amongst their students. So thank you so much for that. It has been a phenomenal session, and I really appreciate the fact that you have taken your time out to give it back to the
Completely my
educator
pleasure.
community.
Absolutely my pleasure, Varun. I am so privileged that today I was able to connect with people from so many different parts, not only of the country but also overseas. So yeah, and yes, collaboration is really the way to go forward. And it's so true that in school we don't teach collaboration. And whether you look at great tools or even what we are doing today, I mean, all of this wouldn't have been possible if we were not collaborating. We'd all be living in our own little islands, like frogs in a well, and thinking that I'm doing some great job. But that's not true. There's so much always to learn from each other. Absolutely.
It's very true, ma'am. It's very true. So, dear teachers, you can follow Sanchita ma'am on Twitter. Her ID is @ of Sanchita Ghosh 17. And you can write your thoughts on Twitter and tag us and let us know about what you feel about the entire session. And it'd be great to tag EdChat India, Teacher Tweets, and Sanchita ma'am. So all the handles are mentioned on the screen. So I request you all to go on Twitter and start following as soon as possible. So thank you once again, ma'am, for a wonderful session. It has been great hosting you for the last couple of hours, and there has been so much knowledge transfer that has happened. So I am super happy, and thank you so much for. And I think we have got topics for the next couple of sessions via this. Thank you,
I
thank you.
think I think the guests were amazing today. I think you push us to think more, to kind of think critically and look at identify problems and try to find solutions together. So I think that's what you're leaving us with. So I am so happy to have been part of this amazing group of educators today. So thank you so much. I mean, what did I do? I learned so much more from you guys today.
Thank you, ma'am. So, dear teachers, you can catch us up tomorrow at 4 o'clock, same time. We have Mr. Kaushal Sen, who's the founder of HChat India, joining us tomorrow. So, I'm pretty sure it's an amazing session. It'll be on the same topic that we have registered for. So, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So, thank you so much for joining us, and hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.
Sound